Here we are. So to talk. So we're going to talk real quick to give Facebook a minute or two to let everybody know that we're here. So we're talking about the games that, so obviously everybody plays Wordle, or most people do, but Worlderl, I can't even say it.
I know, don't even, it's a terrible name, but
it's a terrible name. So it's WORLD, World, LE. So Worldle. So I play, all they show you is the country, like the outline of the country. And sometimes it's like little islands, and sometimes it's like, so I cheat all the time, but it's helped my geography so much that it's like, you don't realize how small Europe is and how close everything is in comparison to like where, like the Middle East, like it really gives you a really perspective thing. They don't do a country from the same continent. It's from a different continent every day. So what I try to do is I try to figure out, sometimes I can get them without cheating, not very often. Today I did though, it was the Seychelles. So I was really happy with myself for that. But what I do is if I get within 1,000 miles, then I let myself go to Google Earth and then try and find it from Google Earth, because it gives you the outline. But I have to get within 1,000 miles. I got to get on the continent.
Is it only the outline, or can you get hints?
Get no hints. You get nothing. You get nothing. But you have I don't know, 7 guesses, 6 or 7 guesses you get.
So since you're within 1,000 miles, I don't think that's not even cheating. I think that's.
I know. I think I'm pretty proud of myself to get within 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Because you could really kind of, because it gives you, what it does is it tells you how far away you are, like you're 85%, but it's that way 1,500 miles.
Oh,
so it gives you it gives you a little direction. So when you're on Google Earth, you go, okay, I got to go this way.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure I need another game, but it sounds like fun.
It's a good one because it's not the word stuff. I'm kind of over all the word ones because there's a ton of word ones.
I do spelling. Speaking of word ones, I do spelling bee every day, and that
me too, Tom.
I spend too much time on spelling bee. Do you see?
Yes, too much time. Yeah. And I usually do the New York Times puzzle the night before, as soon as because then
you can get the answers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you get the answers. Anyway, so it's a good one. It's different. So that when Gabe was telling us that Amanda was in Brussels, I was like trying to I have no idea what pangram is, Amanda.
That's from spelling bee.
That's spelling bee.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't need another game either. So anyways, try World, however you say it. Okay. So it's gonna go Steve, Gabe, Tom. I was telling Steve in the green room that he had so much fun last week that he couldn't help but come back.
That's right. I'm back 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. I'm loving it.
Back into the season.
I know. It is the season. There's so many.
That's right.
This spring feels like fall. There is just so much coming out and so many good things. So I know I've said that before, but I'm repeating myself. All right, Steve, take it away.
Oh, okay. Well, today I am going paperbacks for all 3 choices because we have a lot of, especially the first 2 I'm going to do, major paperback releases. And the first is Michelle Zauner's Crying in H Mart. Finally, 2 years.
I didn't know it was coming in paper. That's just great to hear.
Yeah, it finally arrives tomorrow, or maybe it arrived tonight or today at Warwick's, and it's on the dock.
It's on the dock. I saw it.
Okay, it's on the dock.
It's there.
And finally here. It's been so long since I read it. I've read it 6 months probably or more before it came out. But it's her story. It's really about her memoir. It's a memoir about her relationship with her mother. And when her mother contracted cancer, Michelle really started trying to connect to her Korean heritage, which she had kind of never even taken an interest in. So she really got interested in the cooking and all of these things. And she's, she talks about too, growing up, she grew up in the Northwest, and, when she was at home, everyone thought she was Asian, ill-defined Asian woman. But then when she'd go to Korea because they go like once a year or every other year. And everyone thought she was American. You're not Korean, you're not, So it was interesting, that because her dad's American. So anyway, and if you don't know, her other career or her main career is as her band Japanese Breakfast, which has taken off too. So she's a big thing, and she's just been great. She was great on tour and lovely person, deserves everything. And it's just a wonderful, beautiful memoir. And it's in paperback tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
It's really good that it's a paperback. It seems to take either fiction, usually it's like 9 months to a year, it's paper. But sometimes the memoirs and the nonfiction just seem to take longer. Memoirs come out a little bit quicker than some of the nonfiction stuff, because some of the nonfiction never makes it into paper.
It takes a while. It takes a while.
don't, Gabe, Tom, I don't know. It seems like these days, if something's on the bestseller list, they're gonna, in hardcover, fiction
Yeah.
or nonfiction, they're gonna keep it on. As long
Right.
as
It
they
doesn't,
can.
the genre doesn't matter. It's whether it's how well it's selling in hardcover.
We're pushing 2 books back, or we're holding the paperback up on the our octopus book, Beautiful, Bright, Beautiful Creatures, and we are holding up the Poisonwood Bible for another. We're gonna keep that in hardback for another Christmas because they're just selling.
Demon
still
Copperhead, you
really,
mean?
really,
Copperhead.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
And
trust me.
Geraldine Brooks's Horse was supposed to come in paper. Now
Okay.
it's delayed.
Okay, well, let's talk tomorrow. That's probably going to stay hard for a while.
For a while, I have not been given
Lessons in
a
chemistry.
date.
How long?
Yep.
No.
From a bookseller perspective,
You're welcome.
sorry, consumers out there, but it's just like you can get it at the library if you need to.
Using
Well, I
Libraries
mean,
are fine institutions, but the books
Well,
are great.
But my point is, you guys are still selling the book to the libraries. But it's for booksellers, those margins of the hardcovers, just they're important. They're very important.
And I bet you go try to read the Kingsolver or any one of these books, and I bet you're on a waiting list still.
Mm,
Yep.
mm.
Yeah, no, you would be. So, all right, Gabe, what do you have for us?
I have books aplenty. Community Board by Tara Conklin, and Tara Conklin is one of our house authors. She gets a lot of really good review attention because she writes a really fine book. She is located in the Pacific Northwest, and every book is fun to publish with her because she is such a joy to work with, and every book is different. Every book's got a different tenor, so it's not like you're reading the same thing. It's always something different. So this book's tone is a little bit lighter than a couple of her previous books, but I don't think the impact of the novel is lessened any by it being a little more upbeat, and it feels a little lighter because the ultimate I'll just go over the plot real quick. Our protagonist, Darcy, is just about to turn 30, and her husband Skip tells her, "Babe, it's been real. I gotta go." And she finds herself at a loss. So where do you go when everything in your life, the mundane, the trivial, the important, it just sort of all just disappears? You go home. So she goes home to a small town. It's like a Hallmark movie. And she, gonna go stay with her folks who have decided who have just left for Arizona. They're trying out a retirement community out west, and she is stuck at home in her old room, curled up, watching life pass her by, until she starts getting involved in the town and involved with the people, and she makes some friends along the way. And it's just a really nice book, looking at someone who is her growth is kind of stunted, and we see her having to grapple with understanding that she is in a position she is responsible for her own life and actually takes responsibility. So it's subtle, it's not like a huge message, But I think it's a great book about finding yourself, not finding yourself, but recognizing who you are and doing your thing and getting involved. And then the whole idea of community, which I really love because we all live in these communities of whatever. We have our book community here. It's really fun looking at what she does and how she interacts with that community and that community interacts with her. And then what is one's responsibility to one's community and vice versa. You know, you hear a lot of like, the life doesn't owe you anything and, you know, go out and get it. You know, the government doesn't owe you a nickel or nobody owes you anything, but we all live in this relationship. You know, we are all entangled in some way. And I just think she did a really sweet job of giving us a really fun novel with a little bit of heart and a sweet message. And it's a lot of fun to read.
She's good. And I would love it because I bet she wrote it during COVID because these are the books that are coming out right now. So those are the things that were happening. I live because the cover is great. The little free library. I'm sure she was probably on Nextdoor like the rest of everybody
Yeah.
was.
Still, some protests, even their little, you know, little signs and things. There's
Right.
stuff going on.
Right. There's stuff going on. I love my husband who does zero social media, but he does Nextdoor, which
Oh no,
just-
the worst one.
Somebody giving away a half a lipstick, expired
planet.
chocolate.
Right. And the things that they complain about, oh my God, kills me. Anyways, all right,
That's
Todd.
hilarious. That's hilarious. That's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. I avoid Nextdoor like the plague. So The Great Reclamation is my first book by Rachel Heng. So first of all, this cover, which is another Riverhead, like, you
Nailed
know,
it.
home run. I mean, I don't know if you can really see, but it's like shimmering, it's water, and it's just like glowing off the shelves. So it's set in Singapore in the early 1940s, just before World War II. We start off with the main characters. Abun is a young boy in a fishing village, very rural. He goes off fishing with his father. He's not really into fishing at the beginning of the book. But what happens is he has visions of other islands that no one else can see. And there's great bounty in those other islands. So there's a bit of a magic realism at the beginning, but then it gets quite realistic. And it's really about the founding of Singapore, modern Singapore. Because Singapore is not like Singapore today, we think of Crazy Rich Asians and the most modern of countries. But at this time, so there's the war, there's the Japanese occupation, and then post-war, so the Great Reclamation was this major project in Singapore because there's not that much land, it's very small. So they took fishing villages and built them up, that's the reclamation, and built what we now know as Singapore. But the book is about what was lost, the people who lived in those villages, and the pull, like, you know, she doesn't take sides, but it's like, which is more important, to modernize, to become this great, you know, modern society, or to think about what was lost from the community that Gabe was talking about in those little villages. And there's a love story between Abun, the main character, and Suk Mei, who they're childhood sweethearts. And then they end up on opposite sides of the political winds and changes that come to Singapore. So it's about the legacy of colonialism. It's, as I say, about rural versus urban, and what is this lust for modernity and becoming the most modern. What's lost when that happens? So it's a really beautiful book. Not her first novel, but the first book we've published. So it's a great historical novel, great love story, and really, like, I knew nothing about Singapore. Really, I knew what I know from, say, Crazy Rich Asians, but that's about it. And so it's really incredible to learn the stories, the real story. And then she did a great interview with Scott Simon this weekend, and she talked about, she dedicates the book to her mother because her mother would tell her stories of Singapore, like the Singapore that she remembers that was like this. And Rachel was like, I can't understand the Singapore I visited, or she was from Singapore, now she lives here, but I can't square the Singapore of today with the Singapore you describe in your stories. So really great novel, The Great Reclamation, on sale tomorrow.
It really is interesting to think of what they, I mean, to think of what they did. I know you gotta here, it's fine. We don't mind dogs barking. To think about what they, I mean, that engineering feat alone was super
Yeah.
fascinating
Yeah.
in the book. It was crazy.
Yeah, the idea that you, I mean, that is, it's a bold, audacious idea to think you can add land and then build these skyscrapers and, you know,
Huge.
change the country's character entirely.
Entirely. I mean, it is just like, because it's like kind of a Dubai. I mean, it is just like rags to riches. I mean, it's just people
Yeah.
can't even afford to live there anymore. And I mean, it's just,
Oh, yeah.
but it's got crazy laws too, though. But anyways.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
It's
But
crazy.
and I like that this deals with the politics of the time and takes you through World War II and up to not the present, but
Right.
closer to the present. There's a lot going on in here.
There's a lot
to
going on.
discuss for book clubs too.
Super lot to discuss for workouts. Okay, I'm going to be super quick because my books aren't coming out for a while, but I wanted to, we had so many guests on last week that I couldn't talk about the books that I wanted to talk
That's
about,
right.
which was really fun. But I'm telling you about The Devil's Playground. So this one is coming, oh God, Steve, I don't know, because I've got a nice little bound manuscript. So I want to say September-ish, maybe?
I think it's September-ish.
Yeah, August, September,
August. No, it's on the summer list, so August.
maybe
probably.
August.
I
Okay.
can't remember.
But what I'm telling you about this is, I'll go ahead and pre-order this. But before August, go read Craig Russell's The Devil Aspect, because that is to set you up for what Craig Russell is and how he writes. Okay, so this one takes place in 1920s ish Hollywood. So there's a cursed film. There's these actors that are who they really say they are. Lots of things going on. There's a little bit of the Louisiana Bayou comes in with some witchcraft voodoo stuff. I mean, so it's got all this like really atmospheric stuff, the desert. I mean, it's got lots of things going on. So The Devil's Playground is really good at like silent film transitioning into talkies and what that did to actors and actresses. But so good. And Craig Russell does these twists and these like character things that are awesome.
Yeah.
Devil Aspect. Spot
Best.
on.
Yeah, great twist.
I mean, you don't see it coming, but when it comes, you're like, what the H just happened here? Speaking of
Yeah.
H mark. But it is just so Devil Aspect, read it because you'll be waiting for The Devil's Playground to come in August when that one comes. Craig Russell, I think, is one of those that I know, Gabe, you have some authors too, that some authors just don't quite get their thing. And Craig's one of those guys that it's like,
Yeah.
No matter how
He's
good
Maybe
they
it's
so-
are.
time. Maybe
he's
it's
so
time.
good.
Yeah,
He's so
right.
good.
Yeah.
So-
Give it-
Even among booksellers, he's one that it was not easy to get booksellers to read that the first book, even
Yeah.
when it was in Galley and all that. Anybody, any of the accounts like Warwick's where you read it, I mean, people hand sold it like crazy, but other places, there was no clue about, and it didn't get a lot of review attention, that kind of stuff didn't
Yeah.
come together.
And it's one of those things, he's one of those things that, I mean, and I know I've talked about this before, that I'm not really the mystery reader because usually the twists aren't as good as they should be and I get bugged and blah, blah, blah. Devil Aspect twist, hands down the best thing that I ever read. Hands
Wow,
down.
that's
Hands
amazing.
down.
Yeah.
So good.
Well,
right.
can I take us back to last week too?
Yeah.
I wrote down the Rachel incident. Did someone talk about the Rachel incident?
Did I talk about it?
Yes.
I know a little. No, I mean, it came up when we were talking about Irish novels.
Yes. It came up in
Oh, okay.
conversation.
Or
Okay.
Irish writers. It came up in the
Because
conversation.
I was watching an event with Jenny Jackson for Pineapple
Yes.
Street, and she's the editor of the Rachel incident. And so she talked about it, and I was like, I know I just heard about this book. So now it's one of those things where you hear it more than once, and suddenly,
Yeah.
okay, I
Okay.
got to dig into this one.
And
So
somebody at Warwick's, I think, has read the Rachel incident because because somewhere I've saw it too,
Oh,
on
good.
like our Edelweiss like because the people that I'm friends with on Edelweiss, I think somebody put in that they had read it. I think.
Oh, I have to find out because
This is what I love. This is the kind of thing I love, is like, okay, book talk, and
Yeah.
now, okay, now I get, I've got to figure this more. It sounds great.
Yeah.
it is good. It's really
And now
fun.
Amanda just put it into the chat, so we're all going to see it again.
Excellent.
Right.
Easy to reference that way.
Exactly. All right, Steve, what do you got next?
Okay, another big bestseller, long time to get to paperback. Emily St. John Mandel's latest, The Sea of Tranquility. This is just a really trippy novel. And again, I read it so long ago, so I'm bringing up my old Edelweiss notes to try to remember, because it really bounces around. It's a time travel novel, but it's also are we living in a simulated universe kind of book too. So it's got the first part. It's this young man, he's the grandson of an earl. He says, you know, it's 1910 or 1912, and he's at a big dinner party, and he says something he says, oh, you know, the British should get out of India. Something really, like, at the time, you just don't say at a dinner party. He gets exiled to Canada. We see what happens to him there. But then there's he walks into the woods one time, and he hears this very strange thing, and it's a violin, and it's kind of like it's echoing in is that what would be, he didn't know it at the time, but it's an airship terminal, and it just blows his mind. Okay. All right, so then there's another section, I think I can't remember how many years later, where that ties into Glass Hotel. And because all her books seem to tie together.
Yeah.
And so there's a person who, I don't know, it's a section that ties into Glass Hotel. I'm sorry, I can't remember more. Then the next section is, I think it's like 200 years after the guy went into the woods. And there's an author, her home is on the moon, colony on the moon, but she's doing a tour for a book that she wrote about a major pandemic, and which is what happens in Station 11. And in that section too, it's, you know, because Emily St. John Mandel did some book, what it was like for an author to propone a book during COVID, really, during a pandemic. So then it goes, I think, another 100 years, and this young man, he's sort of a detective, like, but he's a time traveler, or he's sent back in time in order to kind of trace how these things connect together, because everybody in this story hears the violin thing going on in the air terminal, no matter what time period they're in. So he goes back to investigate, and leads all sorts of interesting big revelations. So anyway, I did a horrible job of explaining it, but as an excuse, it's been a while since.
No, you didn't. No,
No,
because
you
it's
didn't.
it's so intriguing, and she is so good.
Yeah.
And it's not that what I'm always amazed at, it's not that big of a book.
No.
Right.
But she's brilliant. Her use of language is such that she can cover all of that
Yeah.
and still leave you completely satisfied and like, holy cow, that was so good.
Yeah, she's
And it is an impossible book to describe. So
it's hard.
you just have to experience it.
Station 11 was too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
Station 11, and they
Glass
did a
Hotel,
good job
yeah.
adapting that for the for HBO
series. Yeah.
And I will also add that Emily's editor is Jenny Jackson. Once
The
again,
ever-present
she's coming
Jenny
up.
Jackson.
Jenny Jackson. We're gonna be talking about Jenny Jackson for years, I have a feeling.
Yeah,
Or at least the next couple months.
Yeah.
she's like the 5-6 degrees of Jenny Jackson.
yes.
Getting her own imprint pretty soon.
And you know, and tying it back in, she's Kevin Kwan's editor from
When
Crazy
you,
Rich
I,
Asians.
as soon as you started that, I was like, "That's right, Crazy Rich Asians."
Oh my God. Yeah, she touches just about everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, Gabe, is she any? I don't think she's any of yours.
Nothing at Harper. She got nothing at
Nothing at
Harvard.
Harvard. Got nothing at Harvard.
Yeah.
She got her hands in everything, but.
All right. And so I just have to tell you, Gabe, that we were all cracking up in the chat because when we talked about Next Door and you said half a lipstick for sale. Somebody, Beth said she like snorted water out of her.
No, I think I was thinking of that other thing, the buy nothing.
Oh, okay.
Because when I think Next Door, I think of people being afraid of crime, and so they're reporting every
Oh, yeah.
Every
rumor
little
they've
thing.
ever heard.
Did you see that guy walking down the street?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well, we're
like,
in
get off
San
my
Diego.
lawn.
We're in San Diego and we had a guy, come on, people, I've been in the neighborhood long enough where you don't have to call the police on me because I'm having a cigarette in my garage because I'm black.
Yeah.
you know.
Welcome to San Diego.
The other one I loved was somebody complaining because we're near Miramar. It's like probably like 5 miles as the crow flies,
Right.
about the noise of the jets every once in a while. And somebody's like, that's the sound of freedom. It's an interesting.
Okay.
neighborhood.
What's your next book?
My next book is fiction because we're getting away from all of this and burying ourselves in other times and other places. So this is the 70s.
Wait,
This is,
you got to share your screen.
oh wow, man, I can't even go freeform anymore.
Oh, wait. Oh, I thought you were talking to it. Sorry.
No.
No. Did I
was
totally ruin it for you?
No, I forgot to hit the button, man.
See, okay. You're busting my chops, and
I have to keep you off balance, Jules.
my God, you do a really good job.
Keep
I
you
just
on
have
your
to
back
say.
foot. We all know Alka Joshi. Alka Joshi's first book was The Henna Artist, which was a Reese pick. Sold very well, got some great reviews. And then she did a second book, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. And those two books featured Lakshmi, who is the henna artist of the first book, and her life and her evolution into this world, sort of coming up from nothing into this world of luxury and a little bit of wealth and recognition. And this book, the protagonist is her sister. So her sister Radha, in 1970, moves to Paris. She's got a chance to work as with a very famous French perfumist. And she is married. She's got her husband that she lives with in Paris, Pierre, and they have 2 daughters. And she has a secret that she keeps from Pierre, that she once had a child and she gave it up it was a baby boy, and she gave the baby boy up for adoption. So she's in Paris and working for this perfumist, and she's got the opportunity to go back to India and she's creating perfume. So she's got an opportunity to go back to India and with this perfumist and further evolve her craft, different fragrances, different palettes, different plants. While she is there, because she's there for a pretty extended period of time, she finds that the son that she gave up for adoption is actually on his way to Paris in search of her, because he's been trying to track her down, as kids do. And he finally gets a line on her, and he's on his way to Paris and is about to disrupt this perfect little life that she has. So she's of 2 minds. It's like, oh great, my son is around, but oh shit, it's gonna really mess my well-planned, well-wrought life into a mess. And that's where the book's pace and action takes place. And it's all about identity. And I think we're seeing a lot of with these 23andMe and things, websites with the DNAs. A lot of people are like, oh man, that's not my dad, or that is not a brother, and no, that's an uncle, but no, not really, and there's no blood relation, and all these secrets come out of families. And it's been really interesting seeing, like, well, there's all these all this extended family popping up for a lot of people. But again, identity, it's a big deal. It's something that a lot of people are dealing with. It's the immigrant experience. You deal with identity. There's a lot of issues of identity in the culture right now, and everybody trying to individualize themselves, but you're also part of a group. So, you know, it's kind of funny. I was born in Guatemala, and at a certain level, I identify as Guatemalan, but I'm an American citizen and I'm an American. But I was born in Guatemala. I became an American citizen later on in life, but I'm so you kind of claim two neighborhoods, you know. But that's your world. But I don't have a lot of identity issues, but some people do.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
kind
and
of know
I-
where I come from. You know, I kind of have a very solid base of like my family is where they've been forever. There's nobody from France or anything. My family is
Right here,
They
yeah.
came where they came from.
And it's I love anything to do, go back to Alki's book, is anything. I'm fascinated always by perfumists and perfumery. You know, which my favorite book, Perfume by Susskind.
By Susskind, Patrick Susskind.
That you want to read that. I'm sure Alki's book is not like that.
A little different.
A little different.
Little
But-
that's a good book though. That book kind
Oh.
of keeps you at the edge of your seat through the whole thing.
And that thing, okay, I think we've talked about this before. Depending on the translation, the ending is different.
Oh, that I don't remember.
Oh, because I've got two translations, and I read one and my sister read one, and it's a spoiler, but we'll talk about it in the green room. And I was like, that's not how it ended. So
That's-
anyways, I'm gonna perplex you all until
Yes,
the
I'm
green room.
perplexed.
All right. Okay, Tom, what do you got?
Okay, so we publish a lot of different kinds of books, as you see every week. But I'm really glad we still publish important works of nonfiction that will have, hopefully, you put it out in the world and you hope that it has an effect on the world. And that's the kind of book this is. This is 70 times 7, a true story of murder and mercy, which is out tomorrow. And it's this incredible, we haven't published Alex Marr before. She's new to me, but an incredible reporter. And so the basic facts are these. So 1981, Gary, Indiana, an old, decaying, dying steel town. A 15-year-old Black girl kills an elderly woman, elderly Bible teacher, in like a home invasion. It's Paula Cooper is the girl, and Ruth Pelkey is the victim, the Bible teacher. So you can imagine the world, it was a huge case of violence and retribution. And so she was sentenced to death as a teenager. That was 1981. Over time, our society has kind of evolved its views about what should happen to a 15-year-old who commits a crime. We know a lot more about the adolescent brain and development, and the book goes into like what was her life like, what happened to her, to lead to that moment. But so she's in prison, and it became, I don't remember it, but it became a worldwide, the world was shocked that she was sentenced to death. So you had Pope John Paul, call for mercy. In Italy, it was a huge cause, like millions of people signed petitions that this should be overturned. Not that everyone knew that justice had been done, but it was the fact that she had been sentenced to die. And the most interesting part of the book, so there's that's the setup, but long time later, the person who becomes her most fervent advocate, the girl who's now a woman in prison, is Ruth Pelkey's grandson. So he's a 40-something steel worker who learns about learns and grows and decides that mercy and empathy are the way to go. And he corresponds with her. There's all these letters and emails. So it's a book about forgiveness, and it's something that's unimaginable to, you can't put yourself in any of these positions. But it makes you think about justice and crime and punishment, and what is it really for? If a 15-year-old can't be redeemed, then can anyone ever be redeemed? All these questions. And the book delivers, on every level, on the reporting level, on the thought-provoking level, on the big big picture, big questions level. It's a hard read. It's tragic. It's, on every level. I won't say what happens to either of the main characters, but very sad. So, but really important, and hopefully it gets the conversation started. Also interesting, I think we're now, that was 1981 when there was a certain approach to crime. We're kind of heading back there again after Trump. So this book, in a way, is timely in its approach to capital punishment. So 70 times 7, which of course I maybe knew this, but I forgot. This comes from the Bible. This is Jesus telling Peter, I think. Peter asked, how many times do I have to forgive someone? And Jesus says 70 times 7, which basically is infinitely. Forgiveness is the thing, but we've mostly forgotten that Jesus had that approach. So 70 times 7 by Alex Marr. I think it's going to get a lot of attention.
I've already been seeing a ton of stuff about it.
Good.
It's definitely out there. I've been seeing it in lots of different. So when you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah, I've been seeing lots of stuff.
Oh, that's
about
great
that.
to hear.
So yeah, that is a really, really going to be a powerful.
Yeah, it's a really powerful read.
Okay, I'm going to be quick on this one too. So this one is Rouge by Mona Awad. And Mona is, okay. Oh, I was just on a Simon & Schuster thing, and this girl wrote this book about a person turning into a great white shark, which is about a love story, basically. But Mona kind of writes the same way. I mean, she writes unbelievable things, but in a way that just is like it's mind tripping. It's like you're at a fever dream, but you don't have a fever. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible the way that she writes. So this one takes place in La Jolla in a beauty cult, I want to say, which is perfect for La Jolla.
Which sounds nothing like La Jolla. So.
Right. And I mean, and the things that she talks about, it's like the diamond infused. I mean, she nails it with the beauty stuff. But ultimately, it's a story of a young girl and her mother's relationship and grief. So that's really the underlying story, but it's layered in this just twisted world of this beauty cult that, if you'll notice, this is actually like a jellyfish.
Oh yeah.
So that it was a flower, and they play a really weird role in this thing. It's just like, holy cow. But the reason I bring it up, so this isn't coming out till September either, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because I want you all to go read Bunny, which was her first book, which was Tom's book.
I second that, yeah.
Which is another, and Bunny blew up on TikTok and it became this thing. And it is like, Secret History meets Mean Girls, or like, I don't even know.
Right, but a thing but Mona, but then you throw in Mona's imagination.
Mona's brain. It's just this thing that is just, it's incredible. Because I mean, I guess the only reason I say Secret is because it takes place on a college campus is really about all it is. But and her writing is spectacular. But it's just this twisted, great, like, you'll notice I have something similar. I like my twisted little books, but anyways, they're good.
And did I not just see that the film rights have been sold? Didn't she put that on?
Yes.
So the TV rights, so it'll be coming in a very, I don't know how you adapt a book like that, but I can't wait.
I can't wait, because it's just going to be, I would, as a person who makes movies or films like that, it would be so fun to do.
Yeah.
Because it's just so out there. So anywho. Rouge and Bunny, Mona Awad, my favorite little author. So love her. All right. Okay, Steve, lightning round.
All right, lightning pick is paperback again. This one came out 2 weeks ago, and it kind of fits in the twisted little world genre. It's Carla Henkel's Other People's Clothes. And it's about these, it takes place around the time of the Amanda Knox trial and all that's going on. And these two American girls, I mean, one's the main character. Let's go with her. She comes to Berlin to study art, and she meets another girl. They're about the same age, and neither of them end up going to any classes at all. Instead, they kind of get pulled into this kind of world of parties and clubs, and they find an apartment together. And the deal is, so good. It's unbelievable. They can't believe it true, but it's true. But it's the apartment of a novelist who writes thrillers, kind of twisted thrillers. And so they get this apartment and they began having these kind of rave parties at their apartment, but they begin to suspect that they're being spied on, and that author has some way is trying to wrap them up in either creating a story or, they become really suspicious of what's going on. So it's a fun little twisted read.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I think maybe who read that? I think maybe Laura read that at the store, maybe. I don't know. I've seen it. Somebody's
Okay,
name.
good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, I think it's a little over a year since it's been out in the hardcover, but other people's clothes. Fun
Really
and
good.
twisted.
Is that a double day? Is that a double day title?
It was a double day. I'm pretty sure it was double
Yeah,
day.
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Gabe.
I'm going to take you down to some children's books or a child's perspective. Tacos Today, El Toro and Friends by Raul III. So a little over a year ago, we bought Hachette, and about a year ago, we started taking orders for them and selling the books actively. And I discovered this little series. They're for the elephant and piggy crowd, I think, with this very distinctive iconography. So they're luchadores. They're the Mexican wrestling Mexican wrestling kids who are doing their thing and going about their business. And this book here is about the young luchadores are about to take a break from the practice and are gonna go get a special all-you-can-eat Mexican taco lunch. And they gather together, and when they all get there, and I don't know about kids these days, they just flash their watch and everything gets paid. But I remember going as a kid, even getting gas money when I was a kid, who got 35 cents here and 25 cents there, and you hook up $1 so you could cruise up and down the street all Friday night with some gas money, piecing your money together for some French fries after you go swimming at the boys club, and you need 25 cents. A lot of money back in the day. Anyways, same thing with these kids. They find themselves a little short of cash, so they got to get creative and figure out how thinking together how they're gonna get lunch and have a delicious lunch. So like I said, I'd never seen these. When I saw them, I was like instantly drawn to the art. They're really a lot of fun. Raul III has won a Pura Belpra Award, and for those who don't know, Pura Belpra Award is every January, February, the American Library Association gets together and they give out the Newberries and the Caldecotts, and those are the big awards. But there's also the Prince Award, the Coretta Scott King Award, the Schneider Award. So there are a lot of special interest awards as well. And Raul III has won the Pura Belpra 3 times. So that's a significant contribution to Latino literature. And I think they're great. I think they belong, like I said, right next to the Elephant and Piggy books. If you're in San Diego, everybody is always like, I wish I would have had my kids would have learned Spanish when they were little, or French or something. So you can get them started, get them curious. They'll work their way up to other stuff, but just a fun read alouds.
I love the art.
They're really fun. The art is really fun, and then the language is a lot of the Spanish sprinkled throughout the book.
Which is good. Like you said, it's like a good.
I mean, everybody in Southern California
needs to learn how
there's words you
to
pick up. There's words that you use.
Yep.
Everybody knows what a chancla is.
Tom and Steve are going, we do?
Everybody knows what a chancla is.
Tom and Steve were like, I might have to Google that.
The discipline device.
All right. Okay, Tom, what do you got?
Okay, so this is the perfect lightning round because Lisa Scottoline needs no introduction. She's got, I think, 30 million, they said 30 million books in print or sold over the many years, mostly the legal thrillers. Mm-hmm. But what she's carving out for the last couple of books, so this is the new book, Loyalty, is historical fiction. So the last book was set in Rome, so it was a big historical fiction about Rome. And now this is Sicily and the origins of the Sicilian mafia. It takes you back to the 1800s, and there's imprisonment, there's love stories, there's kidnappings, and there's definitely crime. So it's historical crime fiction in a way. And she's just a great storyteller that's, riveting and keeps the pages turning. And I love that she, being so successful, you don't have to change your formula. You don't have to try something new. Most don't, but she has, and very successfully. I mean, we did surprisingly, like a lot of stores that maybe had slowed down selling her are now selling her again with these books. So I think this will be another huge hit for her. Lisa
Yeah.
Scalabrin's loyalty.
I think that looks really good. I think she kind of tapped into a little thing with the last one with the historical fiction. She
Right,
kind of
it's
took a
her-
little turn, and then everybody's, and now
Right.
she's kind of going back to her crime thing, but in a different way.
And I think if we look at that cover, I think, Putnam is the publisher of The Godfather. I think they're typeface. I think there are things on this cover that might subliminally recall a famous jacket cover.
Just a little bit on her name. Just a
Yeah.
little
it's not
bit.
too much. It's not too much, but I love that it's there.
I love that it's there too. Just a little bit.
You know what?
Okay,
is
my
good?
lightning round. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, where did it go? For goodness sakes, hold on.
Well, she's a very sweet person. She gets a lot of fans because she's so terrific.
She's
She
so
is
sweet.
great. Yeah.
She is awesome. Okay, let's see if this is what I've got. Did I get it right? Yes, I did. Okay, gonna talk really quick about Wandering Souls, because Steve, I don't know, when you started mentioning the noise that you heard in the in Sea of Tranquility, the violin, it got me thinking about something about this book too. The books are totally nothing alike, but it got me thinking about this. So this book takes place, this is a Vietnamese refugee story. And it's about one of the narrators is a wandering soul, which is brilliant. And it's not a very thick book, but man, she packed a punch. And actually she is longlisted for the Women's Prize for this book, and she's a debut. Okay, so here's the thing though. So the story is this family story. The family comes across to, actually it's a British immigrant story from Vietnam, which is a little bit different too. So it's just really well done. The thing that I found fascinating though, and part of her research, was the Americans had, and you guys might already know this, and you can Google it, and it's creepy as you know what, Operation Wandering Soul. And in the Vietnamese culture, when you die, you're supposed to go back to where you were from, like your homeland, and so that your soul doesn't wander. So the Americans would broadcast in Vietnamese. Yeah, Tom, these
I can't wait to hear, but I'm already horrified.
right. So about, you don't want to die here in the jungle, go home, you don't want to become a wandering soul, all in these like creepy, and you can hear Google it and you can listen to the recordings. It's anyways, so Wandering Soul is what, are you Googling it right now, Gabe?
I am actually Googling Ocean Vuong, who blurbed.
Yeah, who blurbed it?
I read a lot of books about the Vietnam War as a kid. I grew up reading like World War II because I was born so close to World War II
Yeah.
that I read a lot of World War II books, and then all of a sudden I read like a ton of like Vietnam books, the Robin Moore book, about the Mountain Men.
Right.
Just a
But
ton.
this was recordings that they would put out into the jungle to try to get the Vietnamese to like go home. You don't want to die in the jungle and become a wandering
The
soul.
Tokyo Rose thing, right?
Yeah.
Tokyo Rose, yeah, but it didn't work.
No, but yeah, some of the stuff we did though. Anyways,
Wow. When does that book come out?
it's out. It came out last.
Oh, you said it's nominated for the Women's Prize. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, and it just came out like last Tuesday, a week ago tomorrow. It came out. It's really good. Not very big, but it is so. I mean, it's getting that kind of acclaim. It's not getting like the. I just want everybody to read it. It's so good. So, all right, we did good today. Lots of good stuff.
Can we congratulate the San Diego State Aztecs for making the Final Four?
Final four. Okay, Tom, we talked about our brackets earlier and how, because I picked San Diego State to win, to go to the, I think it was
the 16.
I think it would, no, I had them going to the Elite Eight. So I had them going there, but I had
That's
Alabama
impressive,
beating
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So I
Everybody
was like, so I made that switch. It was like, okay, you're going that far, but you're not going to take Alabama, right? And
Yeah.
Tom, you had made a comment like, if you're going, you got to go with your heart and keep going. I'm like, oh, no, should have
Right.
gone with my heart.
Imagine if you had the 1 year, like, but it never works. Like next year, you'll oh, I'm going to go with my heart, and
Right.
that year it'll be
Yeah.
Kansas, Duke, North
Right, it'll be all
Carolina.
the not a number one. So I'm starting to wondering about the ranking system. Not a
It's-
one.
It's wide open now. There's
not
so
a
much
two.
talent.
Well, can you explain how they said that there were like 1 point, or no, there were like 34 on ESPN. I think there were like 34 people who picked the exact right 4 teams. How could there be even one?
How could there be one? Because if I would have done a little more research on FAU, I would have picked them a little.
They
further.
they had a high ranking. I mean,
Yeah, they were
overall,
underseeded, I think.
they were
Yeah.
like in the top 25 or something.
I know, but
Nobody noticed.
but there was one of those things where it's just like you really didn't know, and then now all of it is just like, oh yeah,
I mean,
well,
Connecticut kind of people had a beat on Connecticut, but
but FAU is one of those where it's just
yeah.
like it's all these transfers, and you don't have to wait out a year. So there are
Yeah.
all these like high-ranking kids that just came in from everywhere. So it's just like it's like a built-in automatic program that happened there. So
but I love that. Well, of course, my daughter goes to San Diego State, so I have a little extra. But it's a great story.
I know
mean,
it's a great
yeah.
story.
It is.
Well, and
They've
it's
been-
and
they've been
all the
building
guys,
the
and I'm
program
a
for
former
years.
Aztec. My husband played football at
That's
San Diego
right,
State.
right.
So
And they've been
we've
building
got
this program, this basketball program for years.
20
but
years. It's
finally
been
got there.
Steve Fisher's
Yeah.
always
Steve Fisher
had
was
talent.
fantastic. And the thing that I love is that like the guys that built it, like Kawhi Leonard, who's now in the NBA,
I
he's
forgot
got to
he
be
went to-
super proud of
Yeah, right.
his legacy in building this program because
I forgot
was,
he went to San Diego State.
yeah,
He's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
the- he's like the man from San Diego State
Yeah.
I know.
in the NBA, I think.
I think so too. So it's really a book. So we've totally digressed from books. So all of you book people who are like sports ball, what are you talking about? We'll bring it back to books. So everybody have a good week reading, and we will see everybody. Oh, I may or may not be on next week. Amanda, you and I probably have to talk about that because I'm going to be in Chicago. So I probably will still be on, but we'll see what happens. But if not, signing off till next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Well.